welcome you all once again on our.
एकदम बहुत ही बिजी बस से चालू चलो होगा कि
So this is our Monday and Friday Gita discussion, isn't it? We discuss about Bhagavad Gita. So we'll continue today from chapter 4. I think we have covered till uh, verse number 30. No, the 46, if I'm not wrong. 46. Yes, 46. Till we have covered till 46. We'll continue from 47. So we'll summarize quickly what we have gone through this section and then continue. Uh, let's invoke the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Desadharine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome you all once again on our Bhagavad Gita discussion. So we have been discussing chapter 2, where Krishna is teaching to Arjuna about Niskam Karma Yoga. So that's the fourth section. So we have seen in the just a very quick recap for the previous sections. In a very first section, Arjuna surrendered to Lord Sri Krishna. Then in then second section, Lord Krishna, he gives him the knowledge of body and soul. So he says that what is body and what is soul, what are differences between those. And then after that, Krishna said that to counteract his, to answer his question of Arjuna that no, I will get seen. So Krishna said that if you do not work, if it means if you do not fight, then you will get seen. However, the Kshatriyas, they are actually, they see for the opportunity for this kind of battle so that they fight, and if they die, they get heavenly planets, and if they win, they rule this kingdom. So it's a very good opportunity for you as well. So there is no sin and no fall down. You're actually are winning in both situations. Even if you lose, you, lose means if you die, you go to heavenly kingdom, and if you win, you will get earthly kingdom. You will enjoy in earth. That's the second level of understanding, or Krishna giving that that first application of jnana, the atma jnana, the knowledge of the soul. And then in that section, Krishna says that you should fight for that. And then now Krishna is taking us to higher than that. Higher than that, there is basically Niskam Karma Yoga. And in Niskam Karma Yoga, we have discussed till 38 verses. It goes from 38 verse to 53 verses of second chapter. And we have discussed till 46 verse, where Krishna talks about something higher that is called as Buddhi Yoga. And he says that in 38 verse, he says, Sukha Dukha Same Kritva Labha Labham Jaya Jaya. So just do not worry about, do not think about happiness and distress, or victory, or losing, or what do you say, happiness and distress, right? So don't think about that, but for the sake of fighting, for the sake of doing your duty, fight this war. And in this way, when you work in this way without thinking about the result, you actually do not get sin, you do not incur any sin. And then Krishna says that do your work in Buddhi Yoga. So what is that Buddhi Yoga? Vyavashatmika buddhir ekah kurunandana. So the intelligent people, the one-pointed intelligent people, so basically you use your intelligence for the highest thing. And the yoga can be of different type. That yoga can be karma yoga, can be jnana yoga, vidhyana yoga, but we discussed in previous section that the best yoga is buddhi yoga, because Krishna gives us in the other verses that the Vedas, the flowery words of the Vedas, they describe so many things, and but those are mostly are in the three modes: mode of passion, mode of goodness, and mode of ignorance, where they they give so much fruits to us. They you know they allure people that okay, you do this, you'll enjoy this. You may be enjoying heavenly kingdom, you may get a next life good birth, and other things. So that's how basically, but Krishna says that's not the highest or the good thing. You need to rise from above, from there. What then in verse 45 Krishna says that Triguniya Vishya Veda. So Veda, the Vishay of the Veda is what? Triguna, these three modes of nature. So in this, the mostly the Vedas, they go around these three modes. So either for mode of passion, mode of ignorance, mode of goodness. However, Krishna says Nistre Guna Bhava Arjuna. So Arjuna, Nistre Guna, transcendent from these three modes, be in Suddha Sattva, be in pure goodness. So we know there are three modes of goodness, three modes of metal modes. One is mode of passion, mode of goodness, and mode of ignorance. And there is also one more, there is fourth one, that is called as pure goodness or Suddha Sattva. That is the transcendental position. And Krishna is saying, transcend these three modes and be situated in the fourth one, that is Suddha Sattva. And then yes, till that we have discussed. And also Krishna discussed one more important point over there, that what are the obstacles for where people cannot be one fixed pointed, they cannot be one pointed intelligence. What are those? That in 44th verse says, Bhogeshwara Prasaktanam. So for those who are too much attached to sense enjoyment and material opulences, for them it becomes very difficult to focus their mind, to fix their mind one pointed, right? And that's how try to fix your mind actually. That's the things. So go above the three modes, because in the three modes we try to enjoy the sense gratification, we try to enjoy this material opulences. Hence Krishna says rise above all these things. And now we'll continue from 47th verse, where Krishna is going to explain this point a bit more elaborately. And 47th verse, he says, 46th verse. Yavan artha udapane sarvatra sampludadake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanata. So Krishna is explaining that this actually, all the purpose served by a small well can at once be served by the great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served at once, or to one, or to the person who knows the purpose behind them. So what are the purpose behind the Vedas? If Prabhupada mentions this, the verse comes in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15 and verse number 15, where Krishna explained that Vedas sarve ahamevo vedyo. So all the Vedas are actually to know me. And the one who knows that this is the real purpose of the Vedas. What are the purpose of the Vedas? To know Krishna. And Krishna, in this example, Krishna is saying that, Prabhupada mentions in purport that in India, there are so many small wells in a village, and some wells are being used only for water for taking bathing, and some for washing clothes, and some may be used for cooking purposes. However, if we approach towards a reservoir of water, or maybe river or a ocean, then all other purposes can be solved from there. So in that context, it says anyone who knows the purpose of the Vedas, anyone who knows the purpose of the Vedas, they can actually be solved very nicely. So the person needs to understand what the real purpose of the Vedas is, right? So if you know very well the purpose, there's basically Krishna says in 15.15 that all the Vedas are actually to know Lord Sri Krishna. And Prabhupada says the purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna. So studying the Vedas is not for karma kandas, or just to do these activities or do this yajna and get this boon. It's not that. The actual purpose of the Vedas is to know Lord Sri Krishna. And hence Prabhupada mentioned that the rituals and sacrifices mentioned in Karma Kanda division of the Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization. So you may be asking like, why then these Vedas have so many things in Karma Kandas? That why does these Vedas promote these things then? The thing that we discussed a bit on that yesterday last week as well, that we are we are more attached towards sense enjoyment, and hence somehow or other the Vedas try to keep us in contact with the Supreme Lord. And once, maybe in some time, we'll actually understand that this whatever we get, material opulences or material things, actually these are nashwar, it goes away, and then we'll rise to above. So Krishna has, as Krishna explained earlier to Arjuna, that you fight because you will get heavenly kingdom or you will get earthly kingdom to enjoy. So that's one sense. That's basically karma kanda kind of things, right? To work and get something, fruitful activities. And now Krishna is taking this higher. So in a similar way, when the living entity, when they are fed up, they're frustrated by this, by performing these rituals or the Vedas to get something, and then they know that actually it's whatever we are getting, it's actually diminishing. So then they will rise from there. And Krishna explained this seventh chapter as well clearly, that I give him the knowledge and I give them the faith to perform all these activities, so that somehow or other in one day they will come back to me. And in the similar way, Prabhupada says the purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's eternal relationship with him. So who we are and who Krishna is, understanding these two things is very, very important. And who we are the parts and parcel of Lord Sri Krishna. That's 15.7 Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada says, therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness by the individual living entity is the highest perfectional stage of Vedic knowledge. And that's also been confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam many times as well. So Krishna is saying very clearly that all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. So a real purpose of the Vedas is actually to elevate all of us. So even with this 4 Varna and Ashrama. So Varna and Ashrama, they are divided in these sections just so that we can actually elevate our own selves to the higher cause, right? And the higher cause is to know Lord Sri Krishna. And Prabhupada mentions from Srimad Bhagavatam, where he says that the understanding of Krishna, or understanding who Krishna is, and understanding the relationship between Krishna and the living entity, that the highest perfection. How he says, quoting from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, chapter 33 and verse 7, he says, "O my Lord, a person who is chanting your holy name," basically someone who is associating with Lord Sri Krishna, although born of a low family like that of Chandala or dog eater, is situated on the highest platform of self-realization. Such a person must have performed all kinds of penances and sacrifices according to the Vedic rituals and studied the Vedic literature many, many times after taking his bath in all holy rivers or holy places of pilgrimage. Such a person is considered to be the best of Aryan family. So that's how the point is, when we associate with the holy name of the Lord, that's the highest thing what we can do. And hence Prabhupada says that one must be intelligent enough to understand the purpose of the Vedas without being attached to the rituals only. So normally what happens, even the Vedas is vast, but we we take some parts which actually we feel to do it, isn't it? We even if we don't understand everything as well, we just take whatever we feel, whatever we like it, others we just discard it, right? So, and Prabhupada mentioned that these Vedas uh, are hardly possible to understand in this age, and because neither we have time, neither we have any institute which actually clearly states or clearly teaches us about these things, right? And hence, uh, Prabhupada mentioned that the best purpose of Vedic culture is served, however, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, so which is recommended by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to deliver all fallen souls. So just by chanting the holy name of the Lord, taking shelter of holy name of the Lord, all the purpose of the Vedas can be served, right? And hence, Prabhupada mentioned earlier as well that in this Kali Yuga, it's very, very difficult for us to understand those as it is, what they mean, isn't it? And the next verse is very, very famous verse. I think it's all known to everyone as well. Karmane vadikarasti to karmane. Sorry, I have some problem with my throat. Karmane vadikaraste mahapaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhir ma tu sanga sto karmani. So what that says, basically, we are more used to with the first lines, karmane vadikaraste, that is, or mahapaleshu kadachana, but we miss the second part. So Krishna is saying here that you have a right to perform a prescribed duty. So just see what the ability given to us is to perform our prescribed duty. However, you are not entitled to the fruits of the action. So we are not actually entitled to the fruits of the action. And also Krishna says, never consider yourself as the cause of the results of your activity, and never be attached to not doing your activity. So akarma, in this verse, akarma in chapter 3 and chapter 4, it has a different meaning, but here akarma means not doing activity. So karma can be divided into three parts. One can be said as karma, and one can be called as bikarma, and one is akarma. So karma means performing our prescribed duty, and bikarma is performing a duty which is not authorized, or in a capricious actions, or we can say, or which is not being sanctioned by an authority. That is vikarma, or going against of our prescribed duty. And akarma again has a two meaning, but in this context it says not doing a prescribed duties. So that is in a material platform, and we'll discuss this word again in chapter 3 and 4 too. So three things: karma, performing prescribed duties. When we perform our prescribed duties, then there is no sin. However, it says, you should not be attached to the results. And performing akarma and performing vikarma, both in both cases we get sin, or bad results, right? So vikarma is acting against all the prescribed duties, and akarma is not acting or not doing the prescribed duties. So some people may say, okay, if I do, then only I will get sin. So I won't do this work. But no, that's also wrong. Even Krishna explains in chapter 3, I think, where he says that even to take care of your body, you will have to work something. You have to eat food, you have to sleep. That's also working. So you cannot live without working. So that's how we vikarma and akarma, these both will give you sin. And however, by working for your prescribed duty, you'll not get sin. And and that's how Krishna says, you have a right to perform your duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. And very importantly says, never consider yourself as the cause of the results of your activity. So you may say, okay, if I am only working, then only I'll get the result. That's fine, but getting the results is not in our hand, isn't it? When we give exams, when we write exams, so to work hard, to read hard, to memorize the things very well, that's in our hand. But when we go to exam, when write the paper, when we come out, after the result is not in our hand, it actually some completely in the hands of the teacher. How is going to answer it? Yes, to perform the duty, the goal, to get to work hard, to read very well, to very punctual and understand everything's well, that is in our hand, that's our duty. But the result, what we will get, actually it's not only us, it depends on other things as well. So there are three things depends upon. And in later chapter, in I think in 13 or 14, Krishna explains about 5 factors which actually depends upon our results. It's not just only one who is acting. So I'll give small examples to clarify this point, that how results is dependent on some other factor as well. It's not just only our work, right? Before that, Prabhupada here mentions that there are 3 consideration. That is, one is prescribed duties, that is our karma, and capricious work, that is vikarma, and inaction, that is akarma. So inaction is not doing the prescribed duties. So prescribed duties are activities enjoined in terms of one's acquired modes of material nature. And like the Brahmanas, they have their own duties, the Kshatriyas, they have own duties, the Vaishya and Shudra, they have their own duties, and even in a Grasta, they have own duties, the Sannyasa, they have own duties, the Brahmacharis, they have own their duties, in a Vanaprastha, their own duties. So depending on the nature, it's their duties. And capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority. So any action we do without sanction of authority, basically, like uh, just a mundane example, right? You are traveling on a car, and if you see a red light, you have to stop. And if you go, it's basically against of this light, and you will be caught by camera, and you will be penalized for this. So that's basically karma. And inaction means not performing your prescribed duties, so that also gives you sin. And Lord Krishna is advising Arjuna here that not to be inactive, but he should perform his prescribed duties. And the star mark is that without being attached to the result. So just to make clear again, in the previous section, Krishna explained that you will get this result, isn't it? And now Krishna explaining that don't worry about the results. Basically, Krishna is taking him toward a higher level of working, higher level of understanding, that how even working can also be called as not working, because when we work, we either get a good or bad reactions, right? If we get a good reaction, we enjoy. If we get a bad reaction, we suffer in a long time, maybe in next life, or maybe tomorrow or sometime. And but working without being attached to the result or offering the results to Krishna, there we do not get any reactions, that we discussed earlier as well. And this point is also being said again and again in Bhagavad Gita. We'll discuss it, isn't it? So this is working. The point is, I'm working, but still I'm not acquiring the reactions that Krishna is trying to teach. That's called as Nishkam Karma. Sakam Karma means we have a desire to enjoy the results. So the point here is acting or working, or performing our duty is not the cause of our bondage. What the real cause? The real cause of the bondage is to desire to enjoy the results of our action. That's actually binds us. I know it might be a complicated thing, but the thing is to understand that we have to perform our duty. At the same time, we need to offer our results and be detached from the results. If you get, that's okay, it's Krishna's mercy. If I don't get, that's also okay, it's Krishna's mercy. As we give example, right, a very small example, that you have to study hard to crack your exam, but cracking your exam doesn't depend only on you. So let's come to that point, and let's give a small example. Like, let's suppose you want to, I think I've given an example earlier too, and you want to build a bungalow or a house, right? So you have a desire, the desire comes up, you want to build a bungalow, So what are the things you need? You need money. You need some people who can actually build a house for you. So the other two things we needed. And so you have the desire, and now to build the house you need money. So to get the money you have to approach a bank to get the loan. I'm just giving a normal example. I'm not talking about millionaires who can, don't have to take loans, but still, just for sake of example, so you need to approach a bank to get money so that you can build your house. However, now the connection is desire you had, you want to build a house, but in the between comes what? The bank. If the bank sanction our loan, then only we'll be able to build our house, otherwise no. So the raw material which is provided by nature, the people who will actually work on building your house, that now has a dependency on the loan sanctioned by bank. If bank says yes, you get it. If bank says no, you don't. But however, your duty is to approach the bank. Okay, let me go with all my documents and approach to a bank, please sanction my loan. And if bank says yes, you are ready to go for a house. If no, then try some later on, or try some other bank. So this bank who decide you will get or not is actually in the hand of Krishna, or we can say is that also in the hand of our karma too. And because depending on our karma, Krishna decides what to get, what not to get. So again, in another point we can understand it. There are so many things what we desire in our life, but it's not possible to get all the things. Some desires this comes and goes away, some desire get fulfilled, some desire get half fulfilled. So how is that happening? So this is the cause, because the thing is that there are, to get the results, there is something else also working behind it. It's not just only my activity, right? If that makes sense, if that make clear to everyone, or any doubt in this point before we move ahead? Okay, so silence means all okay. Okay. And then Prabhupada mentioned in the last para saying that Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the results. And his non-participation in the battle is another side of attachment. So even not fighting is also an attachment, isn't it? See, Krishna says don't be attached to that as well. So because why he's not fighting, we understood from chapter 1. He's not fighting because he's thinking that I will acquire sin, I will be killing my kinsmen. So that's also one type of attachment. And you are a warrior, you have to fight. So such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. And any attachment, positive or negative, is the cause for bondage. And hence, inaction is also sinful. So not acting on a prescribed duty is also sinful. And therefore, fighting as a matter of your duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna. So that's how Krishna is actually trying to make understand to Arjuna that fighting is the only option for you, and which is auspicious. And Krishna is taking him higher and higher and higher. And now Krishna says that yogastha kuru karmani sangha tyakta dhananjaya. Now Krishna is saying, be situated in yoga. So yogastha kuru karmani. What does that mean? Be situated in yoga and do your duty. And sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. Sangam means no, tyaktva means give up, and sangam, give up your attachment. And Dhananjaya is Arjuna. Right. So perform your duty equipoised without thinking about the happiness and sorrow, or win or loss, or profit or gain. Right. Profit or loss, or gain, or what you say, win or defeat, or profit or loss. So be equipoised, and by abandoning all kind of attachment, even to success or to failure, and such equanimity is called as yoga. So what does yoga actually means? Yoga actually means is connection, isn't it? And then the connection can be karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, ashtanga yoga, or bhakti yoga. So working means karma, and when we connect ourselves to the supreme is called as karma yoga. So we connect to the Lord with our karma, and karma can be done in a niskam karma and also sakam karma. So that is basically connection with the Krishna becomes karma yoga. And when we say karma yoga, it actually more refers to niskam karma yoga, right? And jnana, with knowledge, when we try to attach with Krishna or connect with Krishna, that's called as jnana yoga. When we do yoga, that is in Ashtanga yoga, and we connect with Krishna, that's Paramatma, the yogis, they meditate on Lord Krishna as a Paramatma. So that's called as Ashtanga yoga. And on top of that, bhakti yoga, basically with devotional service, with a service attitude towards Lord Sri Krishna, that's called as bhakti yoga. So connecting to Lord through devotion, that is bhakti yoga. And this Prabhupada mentions here that yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the supreme by controlling the ever disturbing senses. So controlling our senses and connecting those to supreme Lord. And Prabhupada mentions that who is the supreme? Who is that supreme? The supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight, because it's the instruction of Krishna. He is actually taking instruction from the supreme personality of Godhead, right? And there cannot be any kind of fault. And he himself is telling Arjuna to fight. So there is no point at all of Arjuna getting any kind of reactions of this deed of his karma, right? And Prabhupada mentions very nicely that gain or victory are Krishna's concern, and Arjuna is simply advised to act, right? So there's nice saying that once what happened in Mahabharata war, one Vishnu Pitama, he took a vow that, okay, from tomorrow I'm going to kill all the Pandavas, isn't it? We know that. And then Krishna came to Arjuna and says, okay, Arjuna, are you sleeping well? Did you know that Vishnu Pitama has taken this vow that he will be killing all of you tomorrow? He said, okay, that's fine. Then what happened? So Krishna said, you should plan something, you should do something. He says, no, let me go and take my sleep, because I know you will take care of the things. I don't have to worry on that. So Prabhupada also mentioned here that gain or victory are Krishna's concern. So Krishna is now, Krishna needs to concern about the Pandavas. Arjuna is not worrying about that. So once, because Arjuna is working under directly instructions of Lord Sri Krishna, right? And that is basically a Krishna consciousness is. Hence, and Krishna Prabhupada mentions here that the following of Krishna's dictation is the real yoga. And this Bhagavad Gita is actually giving us so many lessons. We'll see ahead forward that what Krishna is actually giving us instruction, what shall we do. So, last or instructions that Sarva Dharma Paritaja Mam Ekasana Braja. So that's one instruction. And Krishna says, Man Manabho Mad Bhakto. That's also instructions. That be equipoised. That's also instructions. Krishna says, tolerate this, suffering and even happiness. That's also instructions. These are directly instructions given by Krishna. It's this Bhagavad Gita has come out from the lips of Lord Sri Krishna, right? And it can be treated as instructions to each one of us. And if we work on those words directly, then actually we are practicing the right, or we are in the right track to achieve Lord Krishna's supreme abode, right? And Prabhupada mentioned earlier in this previous verse that by the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this Kali Yuga, by chanting the holy name is the perfect perfect way to achieve Lord Sri Krishna's abode, right? And then in 49th verse, Krishna is trying to put the same thing again and again in a more different way. But here he says, Durane he akarma karma, avaram karma. Durana hai avaram karma, buddhi yoga dhananjaya. Again, he's saying the buddhi yoga. How? So, avaram karma, so which are abominable actions be away from those and apply your buddhi yoga. Be seated in buddhi yoga. And buddho sharanam anvicha kripana phala hetuva. Hey Dhananjay, O Dhananjay, keep all abominable activities far distant by buddhi yoga, or Prabhupada mentions that by devotional service. And in that consciousness, surrender unto the Lord. And those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. So Krishna says Kripana. Kripana means miser. And anyone who wants to have a desire to enjoy the fruits, those are miser. So see, the understanding is goal is there. Krishna is not saying that you should not fight. It means what? Activity has to be done. But Krishna is teaching us that do not desire to enjoy the fruits of your action. Action has to be performed, keeping fruits aside, or keeping offering fruits to Lord Sri Krishna, where Krishna will tell again earlier, later part that you can offer those to me, right? And even in third chapter, it also being says how Krishna says everyone is actually thief in 3.12 or 3.11, where it being said that we all are actually thief, isn't it? We'll discuss it that point as well. So Prabhupada mentions here that one who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagement save working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service of the Lord. So Prabhupada mentions nicely that, what is Bhakti Yoga? What is Buddhi Yoga? How can highest intelligence can be used? So the highest intelligence, using of intelligence is performing Bhakti Yoga. And we discussed earlier as well, even Jnana Yoga and even Karma Yoga, they are not above the three modes. And Krishna told Arjuna in earlier verses in 55 that Nistraya Guna Bhava Arjuna, be above these three modes, right? And Prabhupada says that such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. So performing devotional service onto the Supreme Lord is the actual, we say action for all of living entity. And as Krishna says in the last line of this verse, Kripana, so Prabhupada says here that only misers desires to enjoy the fruit of their own work just to be further entangled in metal bondage. So there's many times we ask a question that how we are entangled in this metal bondage. So answer is here that just trying to enjoy the fruits of the work, it actually binds us, right? And that's how Krishna is saying, except for the work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continuously bind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. And hence, one should therefore never desire to the cause of work, and everything should be done in Krishna consciousness. Why? Or what? For the satisfaction of Lord Sri Krishna. So, we have discussed in Bhagavatam as well, how can we use our all the senses of ears can be used for hearing Krishna Katha, right? So basically engaging, when we try to engage all our senses in Krishna service, that's basically for us, for the all the work is done for the satisfaction of Krishna. So ears can be engaged for hearing Krishna Katha. The mouths and lips can be engaged in eating Krishna Prasadam or speaking about Krishna Katha. And the eyes can be engaged in worshipping or seeing Krishna's lotus feet, his Krishna's transcendental body, right? And the body, the legs, they can be used to travel to the pilgrimage to visit Krishna Dhama and see in the places where Krishna has done pastimes and activities. And hands can be used to clean the temples, clean this transcendental place where Krishna has resides there. So that's how we can use our senses in the service of Krishna. That is for the satisfaction of Krishna, right? When Krishna is satisfied, we are satisfied. And there is a verse comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he says, how by performing for Krishna Everything is transcendental. It says, खाइते सुईते यथा तथा नाम लय काले देश नियम नहीं सर्व सिद्धि होय. Means what? खाइते सुईते means while eating, सुईते while sleeping, yatha tatha as we, right? Namalay, take the name of Lord Krishna. And kala means time, there is no time. Desha niyama nahi. Nahi means there is no kala, there is no time, there is no place, and there is no regulation for what? Taking Krishna's name. We can take Krishna's name anywhere at any condition, isn't it? This verse says, खाइते सुईते यथा तथा नाम लय kala dosha niyama nahi. There is no time, there is no place or no regulations how should chant the holy name. But what happens? See, taking the holy name of Lord Krishna, there is no regulation, there is no time, there is no place. You can chant in the morning, in the evening, in the night, wherever, what is feasible for you. But you might see the last 3 words, what it gives. It says sarva siddhi hai, means you get all perfection, isn't it? So regardless of time, place, one who chants the holy name, even while eating or sleeping, he attains all perfection, isn't it? So khaite suite, even as how you can say how by eating what happens. A devotee will explain nicely. When we eat a morsel of food in our mouth, and we can chant one round, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. May not be it's louder, but in our mind, and while with that there are 32 syllables, and then we chew the morsel 32 times. And even science says when we eat food while chewing very nicely, it becomes very healthier for us, isn't it? So by chanting one round, we can have one morsel. And also science says that when you eat slowly, it actually when you eat slowly, you eat less. However, it benefits your full to your body as well. So by eating, you can chanting the holy name, and we can eat. And even sleeping, basically when we are practicing this chanting holy name all the time, even the great devotees, the pure devotees, they even in their sleeping also they are chanting the holy name. And it has been experienced by quite few devotees. While Srila Prabhupada was sleeping, the sounds are actually coming from there. So these are transcendental vibration, isn't it? And that's basically preparation of ourselves for the time of examination. Our examination is the time of death. And Krishna will say in chapter 8, by taking Krishna's name, at the time of death, we can actually go back to Krishna's loka, right? So that's how Krishna is trying to ask Arjuna, be in that condition, be equipoised to, don't worry about anything, win or loss, or but be in yoga. Yoga is what? In Krishna consciousness, in devotional service. And in the same line, 50th verse also continues same, that buddhi yukta jahati ubhe sukrita duskrite tasmad yogaya yujaswa yogam karmasu kaushalam. Krishna says, then a man who is engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions, even in this life. So we know very well that going back to Godhead, the simple formula is we need to clean our good as well as bad reaction. Bad should be clean, even good reaction also be clean. And how it says, Krishna says in this verse, that a man who is engaged in devotional service, that buddhi yukta, one who is in devotional service, he can get rid of jahati, even in this life. What? Sukrit duskriti. Sukriti is good and duskriti is bad. So both reactions can be cleaned up even in this life. And hence Krishna says, therefore strive for this yoga, which is the art of all work. So basically be in be in this transcendental position, be above from these three modes and situated on this perfectional yoga by which you can work and be be away, be aloof from these reactions of working, right? And then Prabhupada says that's why Arjuna is advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. So the words of Prabhupada very nicely says, so by performing any action in Krishna consciousness, which is the purifying process for resultant action. I think I was in one of the temple, maybe it's in Pune, I'm not wrong, it's in Pune, when all the restaurant in our ISKCON, these are called as Govinda, isn't it? So, and it says in the Govinda, and it was says that karma free sanctified food. So because all the food in the restaurant Govinda are being offered to Krishna, so those food are called as karma free. Basically, those are free from bondage and sanctified, is being purified because it has been taken anyway. These are remnants of Lord Sri Krishna. So all the foods that we offer to Krishna are karma free and are sanctified too. I just remember by this point where Prabhupada says, the purifying process of resultant action. So most thing, what we do in the whole day, the maximum time we, not maximum, but we work and we do everything just for, so that we can eat as well, eat well. Though the eating is not the purpose of life, but at least it's one of the, main thing, isn't it? It's not the purpose, but still without eating, we can't do any activities, right? And when we eat in the morning, in the evening, in the noon, when we offer food to Krishna and when we eat, it becomes karma free. There is no action, no reactions for this. And then we'll discuss two more verses where actually Krishna is actually giving here this last section where the benefit of acting in Buddhi Yoga. First he says that you will be get rid from bad and good reactions. And then in 51 verse, Krishna says, by thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees, they free themselves from the results of work in this material world. And in this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries. So it's a very nice verse. He says, karma jam buddhi yokta hi phalam tekta manishinah janma bandha vinirmukta padam gachanti anamayam. So how can someone go padam gachanti anamayam? So how can someone be or reach where that is there is no miseries? First point. And the second, the earlier point says janma bandha vinirmukta. So by acting in the process, what Krishna is telling to Arjuna, in that there is the person becomes janma bandhana vinirmukta. He gets free from janma bandha, means the cycle of birth and death. So being in Krishna consciousness, actually we can be free from the cycle of birth and death. And what? Padam gachanti anamayam. And someone, they will reach where? The place which is without miseries. So there's only one place without miseries, that is back to Godhead, isn't it? Which is beyond all miseries. And in this world, there are 7 types of miseries we actually experience. So there are 2 divisions, 3 and 4, and Adidevik, Adibodhik, Adhyatmik. So these are the kaleshas, this actually which experience every now and then. And how can we counteract this? Just by engaging in devotional service. Karmajam buddhi yuktahi. So by engaging our duties in devotional service, then we can cut down the knot of birth and death, right? And Prabhupada mentions very nicely from 10th canto, where in Lord Brahma, in Brahma Stuti 10.14 and 58, where it says, very nice verse actually, Samashrita yed pada plava palavam Mahat padam punya yasho murarihi. Bhavan buddhir yat vatsa padam param padam 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 yat vipatam na tesham. So what does mean that it says, for one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, so who has taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famously called as Mukunda, or the giver of Mukti. The ocean of the material world is like water contained in a calf's footprint. So it's very difficult to cross this, material ocean. But one who has taken the one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, or who has taken the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, for them this whole material world, it becomes like, the water contained in a calf's footprint, and that actually we can cross even without any thought. And he says param padam, or the place where there is no material miseries, that is Vaikuntha, and is the goal, not the place where there is danger at every step. Padam padam yad vipatam na tesham. So in this material world, at every step there is bipada, but in the spiritual world there is no bipada. In the Vaikuntha there is no bipada, right? And hence Krishna is actually asking Arjuna to be situated in this Buddhi Yoga and fight. So Krishna is taking ahead from one stage to the higher stage. And then in the next two verse, Krishna says that when your intelligence has passed out the dense of forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. So and again, the same point, that when we need to be situated on that platform, everything's we see in a different angle, we see in a different way over there, right? And even there is one more thing Prabhupada mentions, that Sri Madhavendra Puri, he says how taking shelter of Lord Sri Krishna can actually takes us beyond everything, even it takes beyond karma kanda too. So there it says, uh, Madhavendra Puri prayers, he says, oh my prayers 3 times a day. So when we do Trisandhya Vandan, all glories to you. So we need to pray in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, as a Gayatri and others, right? So then he's saying, oh Veding, I offer my obeisance unto you. So all there are great pilgrimages of rivers. Also he is paying his obeisances unto those. And oh Devatas, oh forefathers, please excuse me for my inability to offer you my respects. So though he is praying to this, three times a day, and bathing in the rivers and others, and then the devatas and forefather, he's asking, please forgive me for my inability to offer you my respects. Now wherever I sit, why he's saying this, that comes now wherever I sit, I can remember the great descendant of Yadu dynasty Krishna. So because wherever I am, I'm actually remembering Krishna, which is the enemy of Kansa, and thereby I can be free myself from all sinful bondage. And I think this is sufficient for me. So basically there is no need to do any other activities once we take shelter of Lord Sri Krishna, because that it will free us from all sinful bondage. So this kind of conviction we need to get it, and that only can be get when we do use it practical. This is kind of theory, isn't it? But when we do it practically, Krishna reveals it within our heart. So every living entity has a different or unique relationship with Krishna, and we need to revive that relationship with Krishna by chanting this holy name. And when we do, Krishna reciprocate, and then the conviction grows more and more and more and more, right? That is the essence, basically, to try to interact with Krishna through this holy name in this Kali Yuga. And then the last verse, sorry, I think will take some couple of more minutes. And Krishna says, because he continued with the flowery words of this Vedas, and now he's concluding here. He says, when your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. So that is the way. And Prabhupada says that samadhi, to say that one is in samadhi is to say that one has fully realized Krishna consciousness. So Vedas, as we have seen earlier, these are flowery words of the Vedas. They are all in the three modes, and Krishna is asking Arjuna to translate in those three modes. And now he is saying, once you are not disturbed by those flowery words, flowery language of the Vedas, and you fixed in trance of self-realization, understand who am I, understand who Lord is, and the relationship, then you have attained the divine consciousness, right? And just the last para, just a couple of lines. I like to read this purpose. He says, in Krishna consciousness, one comes directly into communion with Krishna, and thus all directions from Krishna may be understood in that transcendental state, and one is sure to achieve results by such activities and attain conclusive knowledge. And one has only to carry out the orders of Krishna or his representative, the spiritual master. So nothing else to be done. What to do? To act as Krishna advises. And if right now we don't have Krishna to speak us directly, he's speaking us through Bhagavad Gita and his representative, the spiritual master. Krishna says in 4th chapter again, that's how we need to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can guide us. And we may have questions, and that questions been asked by Arjuna. In next section we'll discuss it. That Arjuna says that how this person who are situated in this bhakti yoga or this trance position, how do they speak, what their language, and how they sit, how they walk, and how they talk. And that is the next section, where it says the description of Chitta Prajna. Krishna describes their qualities. That's from the last section of chapter 2. That is goes from 54 to 72 verses, basically some 14-16 verses. Anyone have any questions or thought on any, want to share something? I know I've taken a bit long every day. Okay, so
Prabhu, sorry, can I ask if you could, it might not be time today, but if you could maybe give us a bit more information about our duties. I think in this day and age, I think we get confused about what our duties meant to be. And I think I certainly feel as though I don't know what my duties meant to be as a female, as a grihastha, I don't know, towards God, towards society, towards family. Where do we, how far, what is our primary duty, etc., etc. So if you are able to, if there's anything in the Shastras, any particular Shastras that particularly can help us identify and be clear about what our duties are, I think that would be really helpful for me anyway.
Sure, we will do that. Anyway, when you go higher in these chapters and in Bhagavad Gita, we'll get those things as well more clearer, and definitely we'll try to answer this question again as well. But again, if you see in the Bhagavatam, that also been described the duties in detail about the grahastha, the vanaprastha, the sannyasi. But in brief, we'll try to understand this in our few next classes, definitely.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you everyone for taking part in this discussion, encouraging me as well. So Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki
Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.